If you're starting out with like low upfront cash, the best way might be to just start in your own home. If you have an extra bedroom in your home, start there. Use what you got to get what you want, okay? Selecting a group home or selecting a house for your group home. Things to think about. What neighborhood is this house going to be in? Proximity to you, if you plan on working at the home, might be something to consider. Crime rates and things could be something to consider. Like, is this a house you want to go to every day? Is this a location that you're going to be proud to like bring people to when they're doing tours or visits? Like, when people are coming to the home, is the area going to contribute to them wanting to place their loved one in the home, or is the area going to take away from it? So definitely be mindful of the neighborhood, the block, and the house you select, because what it looks like will help or, negatively impact you. I would say also house layout is important. If you know who you're going to serve, you want to make sure that the layout of the property that you're selecting can accommodate them. So, for example, I knew I was doing all wheelchair, bedbound individuals, immobile. So I chose a home where all the bedrooms were on a single level. I would not pick a home with stairs if I know that I'm going to be taking care of either seniors that have limited moving ability, if you decide to do like assisted living, or if I'm going to do individuals in wheelchairs. So I'm looking for a single level, no steps, no height changes in the house. I'm also looking for a home that has showers, because you're going to be using a shower chair or things to roll an individual in. Of course, if you're going to be serving more able-bodied individuals that can walk, then a tub may work. And even stairs may work. But, I fell down the stairs like 2 weeks ago. So even still, I would be mindful of stairs and steps and height changes, because an injury on site is a liability. So single stories are my recommendation. No stairs, no height changes. And if you have a house with a height change, make sure you put in a ramp at that area. What else? As a part of like your zoning approval, APD is going to require you to do a search to see if there are any other ACA licensed agencies, if there are any other APD licensed agencies, and if there are any other DCF licensed agencies within 1 mile of your home. You need to be a mile away from any of those other items. So when you do that search, that's going to help you as well. So if you're seeing a neighborhood or you have a thought, just do a preliminary search, check the neighborhood and see is any other group home in here? If so, I need to make sure that the house I pick is at least a mile away.
How do you do that search?
There's some websites. Boop, 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 if you put it. Check these websites, but APD will give you the website that you need to go to do those searches. I think for DCF, though, they make you email them to ask for a list of homes nearest the address you provide. And the same for APD. They make you email them to ask for a list of the homes nearest that address. But for ACA, you can do it on their website. You need to reach out to your city or county, whoever has the jurisdiction in the address or the zip code where you're looking for property.
And this is
Well,
something that you can easily do by going to your county property appraiser's website.
and this is once you have the property. Okay, once you have the property, you're going to have to submit a zoning approval for use in that area, or a change of use request to operate that business out of that home. Anything else about house layout? Oh yeah, parking. Try to pick something that has ample parking. Consider that you're going to have 1 to 2 staff on shift per day, plus you. And then any given day, you're going to have a waiver support coordinator stopping by. You're going to have your APD monitor stopping by. So you want to be able to have at least 2 to 3 parking spaces to allow for that. or the opportunity to park on the street if you don't have 2 to 3 parking spaces on site.
Storage.
Storage. Get a house large enough where you have room for an office and some storage on site. If you have a house with a garage, instead of parking in the garage, that's an easy conversion. You can use that for storage. But you want to make sure you have enough rooms for up to 6 residents and a dedicated office space, usually behind a door, so that you can lock away important things as needed, and a dedicated space for storage. With a full house, especially if you're doing more total care incontinent individuals, you're going to receive a lot of diapers, a lot of pads, a lot of chucks, and you want to have a space to have that's accessible to staff, but you also want to have a space that you can lock for other things that you don't want just walking off too soon.
Flat roof. Older, newer versus newer homes.
Yeah. Roof type. So the homes I used had flat roofs, which sucks because if you have to place fire sprinklers in your house, it makes that install a lot more difficult. So if you can purchase a home with a pitched roof, meaning a roof that has an attic space, that is better because now through the attic space you can install your fire sprinkler system, your smoke alarm system, and if you want to put cameras into the house, it's going to be easier, and from the look of the room it'll be more seamless. You won't have like exposed piping and cords hanging everywhere to have that stuff in. Living space. A decent sized living room, especially if you're going to have wheelchairs, would be necessary. Being able to have 2 different spaces to be in, whether it's a living room and a family room. A large enough kitchen if you're going to have wheelchairs to navigate in and out of that. So you just want, I don't know, it's a home. So I think as you're walking through these houses, imagine like, could I live here? Is this enough room for a family? Because in creating a group home of sorts, you're kind of creating a family in a way. So don't think about it like, is this house good for a business? It's more, is this house a good livable house that people will feel at home in?
Absolutely. So you mentioned earlier that you don't necessarily have to have the property prior to going through the application process and beginning this business journey. Can you talk about if you do have the property and things to consider like carrying costs and the timing of purchasing the property, rental options in the meantime?
Yeah, sure. So I would not recommend you getting a house specifically for the purposes of running a group home and then starting your application process. I would say get your application first, get your agency license first, and then find a home. But if you already have a property and you're thinking of converting it into a group home, I mean, whatever you're doing with it at that time. If you already have a property, if you're living in it, you're living in it. Move out when you get a referral for a resident to come in. If it's a rental, try to do a more flexible rental model like short-term leases or Airbnb or month to month, or just something that gives you the flexibility so that when you're ready to make the switch over, you can keep it rented up until the very last minute. The home we used, we rented it out as an Airbnb while we went through the application process because we had the home already. And what that allowed us to do was go through, get up all of our licensing, but we were renting up until 2 days before the first resident was due to move in. So I didn't have like the overhead or the carrying cost of maintaining the mortgage on the home because it was able to operate as a rental. So you don't want to set yourself up where you're going to be starting in debt because you have all these carrying costs, either paying for the lease or paying for the mortgage of a property when you have no idea when you're going to get your first client. So you want to make sure whatever property you use, it can stay rented and at least covering its own costs until you're ready. And one of the ways that you can achieve that is like, okay, so we got licensed in October. We're still on Airbnb renting this property. We got a referral that came out in January that we said yes to. but then there was a little bit of a delay. But when they were finally ready to say, okay, we're going to approve this and they can move in, we said, okay, cool. Our company policy, we do a 30-day move in. So February 7th, we're saying yes, but they can move in March 7th. So that allowed us to continue to rent this property out, prepare, gather supplies, materials, things we needed to do interviewing and hiring so that we could have the staff in place. And then on March 5th, we had our last checkout. We had it cleaned on the 6th, and March 7th, our resident moved in. So I started with no debt. There was no like carrying cost from maintaining the property coming into this. So you can start off with the opportunity to be profitable from the first client, or at least be breaking even. If you're starting out with like low upfront cash, the best way might be to just start in your own home. If you have an extra bedroom in your home, start there. Use what you got to get what you want, okay? I used the house that I had. I didn't go buy a house to do this. And I would say for everyone else starting out, it doesn't have to be like a heavy upfront cash business if you're using the resources that you already have ownership of or access to. So if you have an extra bedroom in your home, start there.